You know, sometimes as leaders we can lie to ourselves too much, and we imagine that lying is now a currency.
I am here telling Kenyans that this parliament through the committee is proposing an increment of prices on metubas, Honorable Speaker.
Mmesikia nimekuwa nikitumikia wa Kenya. Lakini pale bunge kuna kamati pia inahusika na mambo ya deni peke yake. Kuna budget committee na kuna ya deni. Na nchi ya Kenya tukikosa kubadilisha mwenendo, hatuendi vizuri kwa mambo ya madeni. Kwa sababu jana tuna launch project ya 5 trillion. Pesa tumekopa from 2022 August. Pesa nchi ya Kenya imekopa from 2022 August to now is almost 4 trillion Kenya shillings. Na hiyo sijahesabu ile pesa tumekopa ya kulipa madeni ya kitabo. That is what is called only net debt. Vile unakopa pesa sako ulipe ya Shairok, sijahesabu hiyo. Nimehesabu tu ile net. After kukopa kulipa ile umekopa ya juu. It is 4 trillion Kenya shillings. 4 trillion Kenya shillings in this Kenya. Inafaa masomo ikue hakuna malipo from primary to university. Hiyo inatugharimu pesa hata haifiki 200 billion in 3 years. From there, hiyo pesa 4 trillion inabakia ya kwamba every constituency of the 290 constituencies in Kenya, tungekuwa tunaona maendeleo ya 12 billion Kenya shillings in every constituency, including Mathioya. What is 12 billion Kenya shillings? 12 billion inaweza jenga kama kilomita 100 ya rami, iweke kila eneo bunge 1 billion project ya maji, 1 billion project maji ya irrigation, na iweke miradi ya stima kama 200 ile inaitwa schemes, na bado kubaki na change. So me, I'm asking deliberate and direct questions. Before we launch a 5 trillion fund, can we, the government, first of all, come and face Kenyans the way I'm facing Kenyans today? Wakuja waseme, tumekopa hii 4 trillion, tulijenga hii barabara, tukajenga hii darasa. Wakenya wakiona 4 trillion imetumika vizuri, sasa tuende mbele. But 4 trillion is worth of the work that I have enumerated. And very lastly, when we launch a 5 trillion fund, as Kenyans, ni vizuri tujiulize, hii pesa inatoka wapi? Hii 5 trillion inatoka wapi? Na wacha niwaeleze nikimaliza. 5 trillion, ukisoma hiyo sheria inatengeneza those funds. Inasema kwanza tuuze kampuni za serikali, na zile zinafaa kuuzwa, hatuna shida, bora iuzwe kwa bei ambayo inastahili. Lakini ukisoma vizuri, inasema, ukiona, kuna majina ukiona unajua ni kukopa. Jina moja inaitwa leveraging, na jina ingine inaitwa clouding in. One thing I give it to those people who are crafting these things, they are very good in generating very heavy names, so that Mkenya akisoma anachanganyikiwa, anasonga. Like the other one I keep talking about, securitization. Unasikia kijina, nikiambia my mother securitization, anasema we, anauliza tunaongea security kama ni nini? But we are here also to explain. Leveraging and crowding in, they are simply saying, serikali ikitafuta pesa bilioni 1, they are actually saying for 1 shilling they borrow 10. So what we are doing is to run away from ile debt. Already Kenya iko na deni ya inaenda kufika 13 trillion. Tumeona hiyo deni imeenda juu sana. Tunatengeneza kikapu ingine hapa ya deni ingine. Na hiyo deni, hiyo NIF actually to me is National Irregular Debt Fund. Because we just want to overburden the Kenyan people with more debts outside of the debt that is in the book of government debt. Na kwa hivyo hii mambo nayaongea kwa sababu mimi nataka Kenya ya saa hii, ya kesho na after elections. Na nataka our generations to know all the time. Tukiwa kwenye tuko, inchi ikienda kado, we are there to put our voice forward so that wale wako wabadilishe mwenendo, we build a stronger Kenya together. Ile pesa imewekwa katika bajeti ya kufanya siasa. Mimi kama Ndindi Nyoro, najua zile masimo zote wameficha pesa ya kufanya campaign.
Mtoe na wauliza watoe hiyo pesa. Wakianza ofisi za mabwenyenye kule juu. Hiyo pesa ya kuhonga wa Kenya muondoe mulete katika elimu. Na katika elimu pia judiciary yetu imeongea na ikaongea vizuri. And our judiciary is very clear that hii maneno ya kupea our JSS interns prolonged internships, Kothi yenyewe imapiga hiyo marufuku. So I'm appealing to the government, the TSC. Wakenya na walimu wote wa Kenya wanasema hivi: the confirmation of all the 44,000 JSS interns sio kitu wanaomba serikali. It is something that we are demanding to be done. Na hatutaki hawa walimu wetu wa JSS ati waambiwe wagoje mpaka January wapewe confirmation. The financial year of government will be starting in July. July tunaangalia, and we expect nothing short of confirmation of all the 44,000 JSS interns into permanent and pensionable terms. Na hiyo sio tafadhali. Kiharo oye. Tonyorokia Kiharo.
Majority of us are Kenyan. I have seen the Hausa and Kenyan. That's why I'm saying majority. And there are some things that cut across. And I am a politician. And I am a representative of the people. And in that respect, allow me my opening remarks to talk about what cuts across all of us as Kenyans. And especially the things we have been talking about, and especially what is there currently happening in Kenya. I have put my voice in it, and I want to reinforce. I know that's not what brought us here, but it is integral. And I want to reinforce that the government is selling Safaricom stake, 15%. I want to repeat again and again that the government slept in negotiating a better deal with the buyers of Safaricom stake. And I'm saying that with confidence. And I say so because I have been in the stock market in Kenya for a long time, myself, because I also invest in the stock market. The Kenyan market has been bearish. Bearish meaning it has been going down. It has only started going up from last quarter of last year. And you cannot measure the value of Safaricom by how much the share is trading. And there are many examples for that to be reevaluated. There is something called a bulk premium when you are selling many shares together. You have seen many companies do that. Rev Joy did that in 2014. The share was 27 shillings. But by the time they were selling bulk, it was bought by Rare, a company called Rare, the same brothers who had started the company earlier. The share was bought at 85 shillings. Like yesterday it was 27. By the time it was happening, it was selling at 85 shillings. If you look at how the companies in that sector are valued, I just want to say as a Kenyan, the government of Kenya is trying to sell Safaricom for a song. And because there is a period for that, for public participation, as it was said in Parliament yesterday, we are going to put our voice because we want Kenya to get the best value out of selling our most prized asset called Safaricom, so that that money can build our roads, that money can build our airports, that money can do infrastructure that we all use as entrepreneurs, as manufacturers, and as Kenyans. And lastly, from where I sit as Ndindi Nyoro, I don't talk about these things in terms of politics. If there is value that can be gotten and Kenya gets the rightful value for Safaricom, we would all be happy. And I listened to my elder brother, Honorable John Bandi. He was on in TV stations yesterday and today morning. And he put a challenge that in fact today he was saying he was wishing I would be there so that we discuss that matter. I want to, from this platform, respectfully tell my brother Honorable Badi, I have taken up the challenge. When you are ready, I am ready, and in a TV station of your choice. And as you come with all the stakeholders, involved in the sale of Safaricom, because we are not doing it for politics, as I'm repeating. I want to ask very pertinent questions on behalf of Kenyans. And because he drew the challenge, I also return in kind that when he is ready, including Monday, I am also ready in any TV station with any moderator of his choice, so that Kenyans can get value for money in the sale of Safaricom.
We saw the fuel prices going up yesterday drastically, and the explanation that was given by government is not accurate, because blaming the global oil prices is falling short of what the reality is. Because last year, for the last 1 year, the highest fuel prices we have seen were actually in June 17th of 2024. And in this calendar year, the highest prices we have seen were actually in January. But having said that, it is important for us to know that out of what Kenyans pay at the pump in terms of fuel prices, around half of that money is in terms of taxes and levies. Over 80 shillings of what people pay for petrol prices, over 80 shillings goes into taxes and levies. And of what Kenyans pay for other products or fuel other than petrol, over 76 shillings again goes into taxes and levies. In an oil producing country like Kenya, the only tool a government is left with is altering the levies and taxes. This is where the problem is. The government of Kenya actually added a new levy last year of 7 shillings in the fuel prices. And how the government works is that time when the fuel prices are coming down, actually that's the reason why Kenyans never felt the global deceleration of the oil prices. Because it's around that time that the government introduced a secret 7 shillings in fuel levy. That is partly one of the problems why the fuel prices are going up. But the more unfortunate bit is that this year, the government has taken that 7 shillings, taken to the banks as security, and then they have taken a loan of 175 billion shillings. This money is not reflecting in the government books as a debt. And therefore, it can only pass as an illegal debt. Because whatever is not accounted for as a debt, then any other debt is illegal. There has been a lot of secrecy around securitization, because these questions, we have asked them even in Parliament, even the people in the Treasury don't seem to know. Some of the questions we are asking, how much money is the government actually borrowing? Because even the 175 is from different sources other than the official source. Secondly, what is the interest rate? Third, after 7 years, which is the period at which they are borrowing, how much will the government have paid to these banks? Fourth, is this money sovereign guaranteed? Because it seems to be nowhere in the government books. It actually also never came to Parliament for any ratification. The problem of this is that we now have the government spending money in advance. They have already collected money in advance for the next 7 years. So if Kenyans demand lower fuel prices, and you've already taken loans using the levies and taxes, how are you going to alter the pump fuel prices? Because the only tool you have is taxes and levies, and it is the one that you've already securitized. And this securitization term is another dogma that is being brought around to confuse Kenyans. it is important for the government to be prudent. It is not fair because we want to be clapped for today. We add fuel prices. We actually go to the banks and take loans using the same levy, which in a bad day is what Kenyans will demand it gets lowered for the fuel prices at the pump to actually be managed. The other thing I want to highlight is that beyond the people in the National Treasury who are clearly engaging in an illegality of borrowing money and hiding that borrowing, even the banks that are lending money using the securitization issue, they need to answer questions to their shareholders. This money you are lending, how is it secured? If the fuel levy in terms of what Kenyans pay is only created through a gazette notice by a memorandum from the cabinet secretary, what if another cabinet secretary gives the one that lowers the levies, which the banks are already holding as security for the loans? And lastly, in the affairs of financial management, you must never favor any of your creditors, because what basically you are doing is to open a floodgate. If you securitize fuel levy, like the one they are doing, the 7 shillings, they're in the process of doing another 5. Then what if now a Chinese lender comes and they want to securitize our VAT? And another one comes, a lender, they want to securitize our payee. What will be left for the government to do, the governments that are in power or that come to power? It is important for Kenyans to know that the explanation that was given in terms of fuel prices is actually not true. The truth is introduction of new levies, but more importantly, the illegal borrowings that are happening around fuel levy. The questions I'm asking, or the voice I am airing, it is just for the love of the country. Because if we do the same on all the other funds, the government is doing the same in terms of sports fund, we do the same in terms of fuel levy, then where is the flexibility for the governments to make decisions on how to expend their money when the government that is currently there is already spending money in advance? What if the other government that was there did the same, securitized the money in terms of all the taxes? Then what will be the role of the government now? Which decisions would they be making when the money is actually not available?
You know the way you can just lie to yourself, and you lie to yourself, this is white, and you write it as white. We recently had the Kenya Pipeline IPO. Kenya Pipeline IPO was a flop. By the time the IPO was to be closed, it was less than 5% subscribed. So the government extended by a few days. In those few days, Kenya begged Uganda, Museveni, to come and put in money. That was not market driven. But Museveni, because he's experienced and he's looking for the welfare of Ugandans more than our leaders are looking after the welfare of Kenyans, Museveni gave 2 solid conditions. One, that he be given 2 board members, but number 2, that he holds veto power on appointment of CEO of Kenya Pipeline. And the Kenya government granted Museveni and Uganda that request. So Ugandans didn't buy KPC shares. Ugandans were buying control of Kenya Pipeline because of the nature of their being landlocked and the need for fuel. The second thing, and I said it last week on Wednesday, and anyone who would want to challenge me, they can come with their evidence, and I'll come with my evidence. The IPO subscription by the closure was below 5%. Ugandans came with 21, they bought 21%. This other one, you are seeing the government reporting yesterday that there is a 41% percentage bought by local companies. These are not local companies. These are government affiliated companies. It is becoming a very bad threat. But the number one trustee of NSSF are not the trustees we know, but the phone calls they are receiving from high offices. And I want to tell NSSF, anything you cannot do with your own money, do not put workers' money in suboptimal investments. The CEO of NSSF and the trustees, I contribute to NSSF because my salary is cut. If you cannot invest your own money in the Kenya pipeline, do not put my money into that suboptimal investment. Because now we want to turn NSSF into a wallet of big offices. When they want to float a boat, they know there is workers' money, put there. They put in money for Talanta board. Workers kept quiet. They have been putting in money for these suboptimal decisions that the government is floating to them, which the commercial side of our economy is not taking, and they are receptive. I want to request NSSF and the superannuation fund, you Kenyans who are sitting in those offices, where you cannot put your money, it is not right to put workers' money in those areas. So the 41% the government is purporting at this is Kenyan companies. It is NSSF, it is superannuation fund, it is Kenya Re, KCB were being ensnared. I hope they refused, and some other companies with only one rider, all being controlled by government. So you cannot come and tell Kenyans and lie to Kenyans. We had an IPO which was 105 oversubscribed. It is the phone calls that were made on Tuesday afternoon by you yourself who know yourself. You called the CEOs of these banks, instructing them to invest workers' money. And if I am wrong, let them come with minutes of the directors' meetings passing those investments, because there is none. And they want to meet and backdate. Kenya Insurance Company, there are other 40% Kenyans who own Kenya Re shares. You cannot continue to be dancing on the tunes of the political actors. It's either you run Kenya Re as a commercial entity, or then you fold it to become a pure parastatal, and then you run it through phone calls. NSSF, if you want to run NSSF through the whims of politics, then the trustees put in your money in there, wachana na pesa ya wafanyikazi kuwekeza pahali kama hiyo. It is very wrong in a market where we have already done our math here. This hall is full of CPAs, that you have seen the P ratio of a company of 22. There is a P ratio of a company at 5, another one at below 2, and then some people take in workers because hawana peni ya pesa ya workers, na wamepigiwa simu, wanapeleka mabilioni ya workers pahali ambapo pesa haitarudi. If Kenya's money, the workers, ever miss to get their resources from NSSF, they will blame the phone calls that were made on Tuesday afternoon to the CEO of NSSF, to the CEO of Superannuation Fund, to the CEO of Kenya Re, and to the CEO of the other entities, which you are going to see when the real results of KPC are out, and which will show specific companies. It is not right. Tunakuja tunasimamia hapa Kenya, 105 over subscription, iko wapi? The money we are purporting is actually also not being paid, has not been paid. NSSF, we are only forced to give an undertaking. Even superannuation fund, there is no money that has hit the accounts of the receiving banks. It is commitments. Because there was no IPO. Don't tell Kenyans there was an IPO of Kenya Pipeline. This was a private placement. Only 2% of Kenyans bought the shares. Because they knew there was political interference even in pricing. The transaction advisor of this transaction is not the company that you saw. It is the phone call. They were told the last day they were to price Kenya Pipeline at a different price. Wakapigiwa simu, wakaambiwa jaribuni hii 163. Now we are running our capital markets through whims. That now, tunaona sasa political actors, we have now powers to dictate even what happens in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Let us get ourselves off the market, because the NSC is the platform of capital flow. If we put in politics into the valuation of companies, into investments, especially of workers' resources, it will be wrong. And if it's money they wanted, you don't need to force a company like Kenya to buy. Kenya has already 41 billion Kenya shillings in cash and cash equivalent, and the government holds 60% of the company. You would have just told Kenya to pay a special dividend, and you get your money as government without necessarily forcing Kenya, which is 40 owned by ordinary, normal, innocent Kenyans, to invest into a sham.
Thank you very much, Bwana Principal. The esteemed graduates today, the chief guest, Dr. Friend Ogesa, the board of directors present and those represented, the teaching fraternity, the student, the parents, and all the guests today. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I am here to represent the chief guest, Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, who really wanted to be part of this, but because of overseas engagements that came on Wednesday, he did not manage to come. And so he requested me to represent him for this graduation ceremony. May you receive his greetings and regards. Mumepokea. I'm sure if he was here, he would have said, Comrade High. Comrade High. And congratulations to all the graduates. Now, in a very brief way,
I know Ndindi Nyoro, my brother. I know you want to look for an opportunity to do clips, TikTok clips, and Instagram, to people out there who do not know what we know in this house. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, as you had guided my brother, he should not use the floor of this house to mislead the public out there, because he knows the truth. He has just said another untruth, that there was no securitization before when he was chair of budget and appropriation committee. He knows that is not true. But he knows Kenyans out there do not have the facts in their hands. And therefore you must be challenged on your untruth, because saying lies is unparliamentary. But what is untrue is untrue. Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, let us be honest with Kenyans. Let us be faithful to the truth. Let us be loyal also to the professions. Honorable Ndindi Nyoro purports to be an economist or a student of economics. I am a student of economics. And as much as we work from assumptions in economics, I'm also an accountant, where we work with facts and figures. That is why I stand on facts and figures. And the truth that never changes, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, while you're on your feet, what was the total debt in the year 2022?
The total debt in the year 2022 was 8.7 trillion Kenya shillings.
And the total debt 2023?
I know the current. You may give me time to check. But I can tell you the scope.
Order.
Honorable Speaker, as I said, my brother from Keharu thinks, you can fool some people sometimes, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. And I had to come back from my office because I listened to a lot of untruths. You are asking a specific question.
Yes.
My brother is avoiding answering the specific question because he knows for the 2 years he was the chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, we were still borrowing. Number two, Honorable Speaker, in trying to fool people, he's now talking about securitization. I would challenge the Honorable Ndindi Nyoro to show us in this Public Debt Committee's report where the issue of securitization is in their report.
My comrade, Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, to take his time to read the bill. Just simple text of reading. Currently, mitumbas in this country are taxed at standard rate of 16%. That is a fact. Now, as we speak, the VAT Act imposes 16% VAT on mitumba. Once the importers of mitumba sell those particular mitumbas, Honorable Speaker, they are also subjected to 30% corporation tax on their profit, Honorable Speaker. What the bill is actually proposing is to exempt VAT, mitumba from VAT. So the proposal here, Honorable Speaker, and that's why when we challenge you to, on facts, go to the, just simple read the bill, tell us where are we increasing taxation on mitumba. The bill actually is proposing to exempt mitumba from VAT, and that is a fact.
Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, where are new taxes proposed on mitumba? Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, in which clause is mitumba taxes being increased?
Honorable Speaker, I am repeating for the 18th time. I am at no obligation to tell anyone anything other than debating, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, we are debating both the bill, but you're also debating the committee, Honorable Speaker. We cannot hide above and below semantics.
Honorable Speaker, I was saying the guidance you sought from Honorable Ndindi Nyoro was on the clause that is taxing mitumba in the bill or the proposal in the report of the committee that is proposing that. The chair has clarified that. And all that Honorable Ndindi Nyoro is doing is now to throw words as the chair and the speaker because he cannot substantiate.
That one, I insist and I order you to withdraw. Please don't take the speaker the direction he does not want to go. Please withdraw. It is an order and it is not subject to review.
Honorable Speaker, because I'll be proposing amendments, I withdraw.